This is my wild and true story about how I became friends with a saint, Father Emil Kapaun, and how he pursued me. It all started with a simple keychain that I got as a gift with purchase. I had never heard of Father Emil Kapaun, but I decided to Google him, and I learned that he was a Korean War POW. After that Google search, I put him on my backpack, and I did not think about him again. About a year after that, I had been in a Catholic book club. The only podcast we ever listened to was an episode all about Father Kapaun. Father Kapaun was a military chaplain in the Vietnam War. He could have gotten away from the North Korean army, but he chose to stay behind and tend to those other soldiers that had been wounded. Prisoners that came from other camps into their camp would say that they couldn't get over how collaborative and kind all prisoners were. The other camps, people were cutthroat and would do anything to try and survive. And they all said that it was due to the example of Father Kapaun, who not only led them in virtue, but he led them spiritually in prayer. It truly shows that if you shine the light of Christ, it affects everyone around you. Father Kapaun was particularly targeted by the guard. He was sent to death house because he had contracted an illness. That is where he eventually died. He told his fellow soldiers to have confidence because he knew he was going to be with Christ. The way Father Kapaun finally got my attention, almost 3 years after I had first learned of him, was at the lowest point of my life. My husband went to work in Korea for 2 months when my one son was a year and a half and my other son was 5 months old, had colic, and would wake up 4 to 6 times a night. It was so hard, and I felt so alone and isolated. I went to a prayer event. The 2 women that I ended up striking up a conversation with started talking to me about Father Kapaun. They were from a town where he was from, and then it connected to me that he had been in Korea, and my husband was in Korea at the time, and it just felt very significant. But what blew me away was the woman said, you know, they recently found his body, and they brought it back home to have a proper Catholic burial. I was almost knocked over. The night before, one of the very long nights I had with my son, I was praying to the Lord, and I felt God very clearly call me to pray for soldiers that had died in foreign lands and not been able to receive a proper Catholic burial. I'd never mentioned this to anyone. So for that woman to mention that they found Father Kapaun's body and that he was going to get a proper burial felt beyond coincidental. It was providential. It made me feel so strongly that God wanted me to be spiritual friends with Father Kapaun for 2 reasons. One, I was struggling with so much anxiety during this time. I was having a hard time sleeping at night. The Lord wanted me to know that he had spiritual protectors protecting me and that I could lean on the saints and the angels to watch over me and my sons when I felt insecure because my husband was away. The second was I really believe that Father Kapaun wanted to be a spiritual intercessor for my husband. Do you have any crazy saint stories? I would love to hear them in the comments. Follow Little Girl Arise for more tips on how to live a Christ-centered life.